German public demand for wealth tax increases. A decisive shift in public opinion necessitates a fundamental reassessment of fiscal policy. The recent survey conducted by the FOSSA Polling Institute, corroborated by prominent German media outlets Stern and RTL, reveals a strikingly clear and sustained public preference for increased taxation on high-income earners within Germany.
With 76% of respondents advocating for a tax regime targeting incomes exceeding Euro 300,000. This represents a significant departure from previous political discourse and underscores a growing societal frustration regarding wealth inequality and the perceived inadequacies of existing fiscal mechanisms. This burgeoning sentiment, remarkably consistent across diverse regional demographics and income brackets, including a substantial 74% approval among households with incomes of Euro 4,000 or more, presents a critical challenge to the established political landscape and demands immediate strategic consideration.
The underlying driver of this shift is likely a confluence of factors, including rising inflation, concerns about social welfare provision, and a perceived lack of accountability amongst the wealthiest segments of the population. This outcome necessitates a rapid and comprehensive analysis of the potential implications for Germany's economic stability and social cohesion.
The rise of wealth taxation in a deficit economy. This shift highlights a critical juncture in Germany's fiscal strategy. The current political climate, characterized by a persistently deficit-plagued budget and increasingly vocal demands for fiscal reform, provides the contextual framework for understanding this surge in public support for wealth taxation.
The status quo, predicated on a relatively stable, albeit aging, economic model, is demonstrably failing to adequately address contemporary challenges, namely, the escalating cost of social services and the widening gap between income distributions. Specifically, the debate is fueled by recent pronouncements from figures like CSU chief Markus Söder, who has effectively normalized the discussion surrounding wealth taxation, coupled with the impending abolition of the solidarity surcharge, a measure primarily designed to impact higher earners.
This confluence of events has created a receptive environment for a more aggressive approach to revenue generation, particularly amongst those parties such as the Green Party 95% support and SPD 89% support, traditionally advocating for progressive taxation. Conversely, the staunch opposition from the AfD 38% support reflects a deeply entrenched ideological stance resistant to any perceived erosion of private wealth.
Furthermore, the historical deadlock between the SPD and CDU/CSU blocs regarding top tax rates only serves to amplify the urgency of this moment, creating a volatile landscape ripe for transformative policy shifts.
Strategic analysis, a political pivot and economic imperative. The data reveals a critical realignment of political forces. The core strategic argument pivots on the undeniable shift in public sentiment as a direct response to perceived economic mismanagement and a failure of traditional political solutions.
Analyzing the data reveals a clear prioritization of fiscal responsibility and social equity amongst a significant portion of the German electorate, a prioritization actively undermined by the CDU/CSU bloc's historically conservative stance on taxation. The level of support across the political spectrum, particularly amongst the SPD and Green Party, suggests a potential realignment of power, where a commitment to wealth taxation is no longer solely a partisan issue, but a fundamental demand for economic justice.
Crucially, the influence of figures like Markus Söder, who has successfully framed wealth taxation as a pragmatic solution to Germany's budgetary woes, further complicates the strategic landscape. This dynamic necessitates a reassessment of coalition dynamics, potentially forcing a realignment of political alliances predicated on a shared commitment to fiscal reform.
Moreover, the sustained, high-level support for wealth taxation, irrespective of income bracket, underscores the potential for significant revenue generation and a strategic opportunity to address long-standing structural inequalities within the German economy.
Verdict and projection. Navigating a turbulent fiscal future. Successfully implementing wealth taxation requires astute political maneuvering. The strategic verdict is clear. The German public's unwavering support for increased taxation on high earners represents a pivotal moment with profound implications for the nation's fiscal future.
Predicted consequences include a significant shift in political power, forcing a recalibration of coalition agreements and potentially ushering in a new era of progressive taxation. However, significant risks remain, including potential resistance from established economic interests and the inherent complexities of implementing a wealth tax, particularly regarding valuation methodologies and potential capital flight.
Opportunities lie in leveraging this shift to address critical deficits, invest in social infrastructure, and foster a more equitable distribution of wealth. Strategic next steps involve immediate negotiations to forge a stable coalition capable of enacting meaningful tax reforms alongside proactive measures to mitigate potential economic disruption and demonstrate the tangible benefits of increased revenue to the broader public, ultimately solidifying the long-term viability of this transformative policy shift.